Hi, welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to look at 10 items that can improve your wild camping experience. So as you know from some other videos if you've watched them, or you can go and watch them now if you haven't, I normally try and do sub 100 pound loadouts with 5 essential items. So that's a shelter, so that's a tent, bivvy, tarp, etc. A sleeping bag, a sleep mat, a pillow and a tent. Because to me those are like the minimum of 5 things you need to do on overnight camping. So in this video we're going to look at 10 items that can improve your comfort, improve your safety and improve your enjoyment of an overnight camp. So we'll start by going up to a mountain summit where I do the first 2 items, then we'll come back here and do the rest.
Number 1 on my list are down slippers. So these are Nordis Moss down slippers. They cost about £20. I think I paid like £22 for them. They have got a nice little grippy sort of plastic bottom and obviously nice soft down interior. So they're really great to wear in the tent. They're really warm. They go fine in your sleeping bag, and obviously you can wear them outside. So if you've got to go outside during the night, you can keep them on. Obviously if the grass is wet, just make sure you've got a little microfibre cloth to dry off the bottom before getting back into your sleeping bag. But if you want to add a little bit of extra comfort to your camping, I would wholeheartedly recommend these. And obviously with the winter fuel prices this year, they're really good to wear around the house as well because they are really cosy and warm. So I think they're a really good value buy. Obviously lots of different brands available, so you can find the brand and a price range that suits you. But a really useful thing, if you're in a sleeping bag, if your feet are cozy and warm, makes a huge difference because your feet tend to get colder than almost any other body part when you're camping, is, you know, in my experience anyway. So yeah, really great little buy, definitely will improve your camping experience. The second item on the list is this. It's a sleeping bag liner. So again, loads of different brands available. This is a Sea to Summit cotton one, which I picked up off eBay for not a lot of money. And I went for one that's nice rectangular shape. So whatever kind of sleeping bag I'm in, a wide one or a mummy one, it's always got plenty of space to move my legs around. So when I've got a wide sleeping bag, I'm not going to be restricted by the liner itself. So do bear that in mind. If you've got wide sleeping bags, make sure you get a wide liner, otherwise you won't be able to move around in the sleeping bag with as much freedom. But these things, what they're designed to do is they're designed to keep to keep the inside of the sleeping bag nice and clean by taking any kind of oils from your skin and stuff overnight into this itself. So you can just wash the sleeping bag liner and not have to wash your sleeping bag so frequently. In my experience, even though this is just a very thin cotton one, it definitely does add warmth to the sleeping bag. Primarily for my experience is that you can wrap this a lot closer to your skin, especially around your sort of head and neck. So if you don't want to be completely zipped up and cluttered in your sleeping bag, which I'm not a big fan of, this will keep the air really close to your body. So it does provide an extra bit of warmth. And also if you're camping in really, really hot conditions, you could just use this as a sleeping bag. So for summer camping and really hot weather, it's an extra option as well. So to me, it's one absolutely essential purchase, because once you've bought one, no matter what sleeping bags you use in whatever kind of conditions you're sleeping in, you can just bring this along, protect the sleeping bag from dirt and wear, and add a little bit of extra comfort and warmth for yourself. So yeah, this is a really good one, so I'd highly recommend this.
The third item on my list are Carabiners. Now these things are absolutely great. I use them all the time on my hiking and camping trips. As you'll see from previous videos, I normally have a tripod hanging off one of these Carabiners from the front of my bag. Normally have a drink bottle off the other, and sometimes I have my action cam hanging off either my camera bag or another strap on the front as well. So I find them just really handy to put things on the outside of the bag. My camera gear is quite heavy, so I find hanging it from the front helps to balance the backpack nicely. And they're just really useful. You can hang all sorts of different stuff and it really extends your storage. And even if you haven't got a bag, you can just hang them off clips in your clothes and stuff and hang all sorts from them. So I really recommend Carabiners. They're really, really useful. The fourth item on my list, dry bags. I'm a massive fan of dry bags. I think they're really, really useful. So I tend to have, well, I've got 2 big dry bags So these can be used as essentially a backpack liner, so you can just chuck it into your backpack, and then put all the different things in here. So I tend to double bag then, so I will have smaller dry bags that I will put different things in. I keep dry bags with particular bits of gear in them, so I've got a dry bag that's just full of my thermal clothes. I've got a dry bag that's full of my kind of first aid kit, toilet kit, overnight kit and all that kind of stuff. So I know that when I'm going camping, I can just grab a couple of different dry bags, put them into the biggest dry bag, and I haven't got to worry about them forgetting little things because I know it's already pre-packed in that bag and it stays in that bag. So it's really handy for organisation, really handy for keeping things dry, and also handy for keeping things that are wet separated from other stuff. So if you've got to camp and you've got some really wet clothes, soaking wet socks and stuff, you can put them in a dry bag and stuff them into your bag and not worry about it getting the rest of your gear wet. So the reason I've got two decent sized dry bags is for some of my bigger backpacks, and your backpacks might be the same. You get a bottom storage area and you get a top storage area. I tend to put my sleeping bag and sleeping gear in the bottom area, so I put that into a dry bag and stuff that in. And then I've got a dry bag for the main compartment as well, just to be doubly sure things are going to stay as dry as possible. So I tend to have two dry bags in my big bags, and then everything else is put into smaller dry bags and stuff down inside. So I would highly recommend dry bags. You haven't got to spend a fortune. I've got some X-Bed ones, I've got some Cedar Summit ones, I've got some cheap ones from Amazon. Almost all of these I bought on eBay as well, so even when they are kind of quite expensive branded ones, I got them reasonably cheap. And also because of the way the roll tops happen, you can easily clip them to outside the bags. Some of them have got bottom hangers as well, which you can use carabiners off of and stuff. So you can actually hang wet clothes or extra storage off the outside of your bag. They're really good to act as mini compression sacks as well. So things like a down jacket, squeeze into a dry bag, roll up the end, do it, and it stays pretty compact. And you can obviously hang that on the outside of a small bag as well. So yeah, huge believer in dry bags. I think they're really brilliant. The fifth item on my list is a little lamp. So obviously there are lots of different lamps available. This is the black diamond one. It is, to me, a luxury item. You don't need them in the tent. If you've got a torch or a head torch anyway, you can easily get by just hanging that from the top of the tent. But with a lamp, you get a nice diffuse light. A lot of lamps you can get are adjustable as well, so you can turn the brightness up and down. And the other bonus is if you are doing night photography, you can put this on a really low light inside your tent. When you do a long exposure of the stars or whatever you're looking to take a photo of, your tent is nicely lit up, it's not overexposed. So that's why I like this little lamp, because you can do that with it. And also if you've got a traditional book and stuff, or if you just want to chill out in your tent and see what you're doing, it just gives a really nice even light around the tent. So for me, a luxury item, but a really good little thing to take with you as well. Number 6 on my list, microfibre cloths and towels. Now, you haven't got to spend a fortune on these. This is a Crivet one, so that's an Aldi brand, I think. Or is it Lidl? Okay, I think it's Lidl, actually. I don't know. Main message is it's quite cheap to pick up, but you can get them from loads of different places. If you go on Amazon, for example, or eBay, there are just hundreds of different brands and makes and stuff. Generally quite lightweight, generally quite effective as well. And I've got little cloths as well, which for some reason I cannot find to do this little video, but you can imagine it's like this but smaller. So they're really great for drying your tent out. So if it hasn't rained but you've got quite heavy dew in the tent, you want to get packed away, you can wipe the tent down. And with the small microfibre cloth as well, they wring out really well, so you can do a big wipe down, wring it out, and then continue wiping down. So I'd highly recommend taking these in a camp. So if you get to camp and you're soaking wet, you can at least dry off then, and then use your dry bags to put the wet towels in. So microfibre towels and cloths, highly recommended piece of kit to take with you as well. Number 7, better pegs. So there are two main reasons you might think about upgrading your pegs. First reason is to have tent pegs that are suitable for different kind of grounds. So your standard tent pegs will be good in most kind of grounds, just kind of soft grass, that kind of stuff. But if you're in areas where it's much rockier, you're going to want specialist pegs that can get into rocks. And the second reason is obviously the strength of those pegs. How well do they hold into the ground? So there are loads of different options you can go for. It's entirely up to you which ones you go for. Obviously, the third thing, which I didn't obviously put at the start, is going to be weight as well. You can get obviously lighter weight tent pegs if you want to really save every gram and stuff. So here's just a little selection. We've got some really lightweight, small Tokes titanium pegs, and these are the kind of fairly standard V shape, really lightweight because they've got the holes in them and stuff. They do hold really well. And obviously you've got an option to put a little piece of, not string, but piece of cable to pull them out easily as well. Really lightweight, don't take up hardly any space in your bag, so always handy to have some of those. These are ones which you've probably seen YouTubers using, which are the Delta ground anchors. So really big bits of kit. Don't weigh very much, but you take up a fair bit of space. So there you go, planted into the ground like that. The guy line goes here, and the idea is with those is as the guy line pulls, the anchor's actually getting pulled deeper into the ground, so it will hold really well. So apparently they can take up to 11 stone of pulling weight before they come out of the ground. So really good for winter conditions and stuff. And then again, fairly cheap from Amazon, we've got some sort of titanium nails or stakes. So really good in rocky ground. And even in soft ground, I found because they're quite long, they really do have a lot of pulling power. So they're really, really helpful. And again, another Amazon purchase, just some cheap sort of V-shaped pegs as well, nice and lightweight. And what you can do, which I've seen some people do, is because they've got these on as well, you could peg out like that and then put a second peg through that and peg that down so you're double pegged, which is a really secure way of doing things if you want to save on the kind of space that those ground anchors take up. So yeah, better pegs. One of the good things about getting better pegs is obviously once you've got a set of decent pegs, you can use them with any different tents that you use. So your one set of pegs can go a long way. And especially if you've got a couple of different types of different grounds and stuff, you can always fit a couple in your bag just to be absolutely certain that when you do get to a pitching spot, you can definitely get the pegs in nicely. So yeah, highly recommend investing in some better pegs and some different pegs, and there are just so many to choose from. Number 8 on this list is a Ninjaclava. So this is from Outdoor Research. It's actually called the Ninjaclava, but there are many different alternatives that are roughly the same. So it's really lightweight, really warm, and offers really good protection from the elements. So it's helpful when you're out and about, and it's also helpful when you're in the tent. So let's just whack it on and show you what I mean. So the idea of this piece of kit is it keeps you as covered as you possibly can be. So from your neck, your nose, and you've just got your eyes. And a lot of them are designed like this one here is with a bit of silicone on the front so that you can put sort of goggles over the top so that you're completely protected from the cold. So in winter time, it can be really, really helpful. It's really flexible, so you don't have to have it all the way up. You can pull it back if you're getting too hot, and it's like almost like a bit of a buff then. But a really nice bit of kit. If you're in the tent and your skin is cold where it's exposed, you're not completely wrapped up in the sleeping bag, you can use it in there. But if you're out walking and there's a bitterly cold wind, this covers up as much skin as possible. Then another piece of kit which you can use with it is a pair of goggles. So you can obviously get snow ones and stuff that help protect your eyes from if you're going to be out and looking at the snow for extended periods as well. Or just a normal pair of goggles just to keep the wind out of your eyes. Can be really effective if you're caught in really exposed areas. So I'd recommend this piece of kit. Inside or out of the tent, doesn't weigh very much. Just a really flexible piece of kit to keep you as warm as possible in those winter months. Now the 9th item on this list is what I know a lot of people would consider absolutely essential, but I don't because I don't drink tea or coffee, and that is some kind of cook system. So obviously absolutely loads out there to choose from. Pick whichever one suits your budget and size and weight and the kind of things you want to cook with it. But this is just the MSR Pocket Rocket 2, and it's the solo cook set. So you get a measuring cup around the outside, a little pot for boiling in, and the gas canister and the Pocket Rocket 2 stove and a lighter, and all the rest of it is actually inside that. So that is a complete cook system. And my top tip, if you want to use this kind of thing just for some basic food, but also want to make sort of tea and coffee and stuff, is to, when you're going out for a camp, is to take like one kind of pot noodle with you, or which, you know, the naked noodles, whatever kind of own brand noodles you want, because that gives you a nice plastic cup essentially. So you can you can boil water in here, pour it in, cook that pot noodle, eat the whole thing. If you're still hungry, then you can have some like packets of noodles or packets of couscous or rice, whatever. You can just pour it into the now empty pot noodle cup, boil some more water, fill it up and continue eating, because that is now your food vessel as well. And it makes sure that your pot is kept completely clean, so you can just boil clean water. So that means you can also have tea and coffee and all the rest of it, and you're not going to have sort of cross-contamination from the food because you're not actually cooking any food in the pot. So that's my top tip, and you can do the same at breakfast time as well by having those like pre-packaged porridge oats in the cup as well. So yeah, a cook system, for me, hot food can be considered at certain times of the year a luxury item, but I know when you're moving into winter, most people would want to take the ability to make hot food. So yeah, really good piece of kit, a cook system of some kind. So the final item on this list, number 10, is something you might consider a bit random. It's an anemometer. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. It's quite difficult to pronounce. Basically, it's a little device that can basically tell you roughly what the wind speed is. So the reason I'd recommend this is that often you might be out in your tent and you think, right, it's taken an absolute battering now. But how can you sort of quantify how much of a battering it's taken and how well it's holding up? You need some kind of device to actually measure the wind speed to really see how well your kit is doing. So that's why I'd recommend one of these. So if you're in a night and your tent is pretty solid and it's doing absolutely fine, and you go and record the wind speed and it say it's 25 miles an hour, 25 to 30 miles an hour. So you know your tent can withstand those kind of wind conditions. So then you know that if you're looking at a weather forecast and you see it's around that, your tent can definitely handle it. Conversely, if your tent is absolutely on its last legs, you fear it's going to give out, and you go out and record the wind speed and it's like 25 miles an hour, then yeah, that's probably not a tent you want to be trusting out in the mountains again. So I think it's just useful to take this just so you can roughly gauge how well your tent is doing, and not kind of, well, it's really windy last night, I did really well, but actually try and quantify that a little bit more. So you start to get some experience in with your kit, because you know, you might be out in 15 mile an hour winds one night, it might be 45 to 50 miles an hour another night. So it's helpful just to be able to record the differences and know how well your gear is doing. So a bit of a random on that. Most people might not have one of these, but I think just out of curiosity's sake, it's a really useful bit of kit to have. So that is it for the video and the 10 items. There are obviously loads and loads and loads of different items which you can take out with you to enhance your camping experience. There's probably some I've definitely missed off. So if there's anything you would always definitely take on a camp that's not been mentioned in this list, then do drop a comment and let me know what that is, because there might be bits of gear that I'm missing that would really improve my experience, or there's stuff I didn't mention on this video. So if you have enjoyed the video, do drop it a like. If you're new to the channel, you're not subscribed, do consider subscribing, because every subscriber really helps, especially helps me to keep buying bits of gadgets and gear and reviewing on the channel, because my better half appreciates every new subscriber that I get, because it means I'm making some kind of progress and can justify this as a hobby. So yeah, big thanks for watching. If you want to check out my sub £100 camps, then do check out that playlist. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.